Hi there, Chris Cannell, ActorBasics.com, with another video for you on how to get started acting in LA. Today is going to be on money. Money and when you're just coming to LA, how much money you're going to need in particular. Now listen, the reason that I'm doing this video is because I get so many people who, like yourself, are getting ready to come to Los Angeles but have not yet. And you're trying to figure out your game plan for how much money you're going to need, how long that'll last you, and so forth. If you saw my story on ActorBasics.com, you see that I came out here with no place to live, no job, no friends, nothing. I just, came and figured it out. I do not recommend that particular strategy. I did have some savings, which was melted away quickly by the many mistakes that I made, which hopefully you're in my course and avoiding making from my experience. But instead, I encourage you to have a game plan together, and this video is meant to help give you that game plan for when you're just coming to LA. Now, when you're coming, there's two different possible scenarios. A, you have people to live with. Now, this is my game plan for you for 6 months. The conversation we're in is going to be around about how much money I think you need to last just 6 months. That's enough time to get yourself set up and get yourself a survival gig and get on your feet. So this is what I think that you'll need for that. If you have people to live with, that's one figure. I think you'll need at least $5,000. Now, $5,000 for 6 months worth of floating you until you're set up and starting to get enough income from your survival gig to support yourself. Now, why is it that I have an A and a B? Well, B, as you'll see, is if you're coming on your own, I think you need at least $10,000. And you see that it's because of deposits, furniture, things like that. So if you're coming and you have someone to live with, all that's already taken care of. You don't have to worry about paying first and last month deposit on an apartment. You don't have to worry about buying furniture, of which there's a ton to consider there: bed, box spring, end tables, coffee table, mattresses, couch, dishes, all that stuff. All those little things you'd never think of add up. So if you got someone to live with, all that stuff's already there. And those deposits in particular can be really, really costly. First and last month's rent on an apartment, that's $1,200. I mean, that's $2,400. So that's a lot of money. So if you don't have to deal with all that, then I think $5,000 will get you by. If you're on your own and you are not moving in with someone and you are getting your own apartment, then I think you need at least $10,000 so that you can comfortably pay all those deposits, buy furniture, and do all the other things you see that we're going to need to do as we move through the video here, which will take us into the next part. Again, why? Well, you're going to need this money to float you until you have a survival gig. A lot of people don't realize it, but when they come out here, survival gigs can take a while to get. That was a big shocker for me. I have a lot of table waiting experience in my past, and so I've got a great resume for table waiting. And yet, it took me like 3 months to find a good table waiting job that would meet my needs. That was a huge shocker and a real scary sort of disappointment. I mean, I'm out there beating the street every day, shaking hands, kissing babies, putting out my resume, trying to get a job, and I was finding a lot more difficulty with that than I ever expected. I mean, back in Tallahassee, Florida, I could comfortably feel like I could get a job within a week or two, but it took me 3 months to find a good survival gig that was going to be enough to pay my bills. There were some other things that popped up. There's little things that'll earn you $100, $200 here or there, but nothing that I was going to be able to really sustain myself with. It took a few months to find that. So you'll need survival money to float you until you get a survival gig, and a survival gig can take a little while to get. Then we get into the different types of expenses that you're going to have to consider, right? So the first obvious major one is rent. Now, I think you need to consider for your budget $1,000 a month for rent at the very least. You'll see more why in just a minute as we get into the nitty-gritty basics of the breakdown of the expenses, but $1,000 a month at the very least for your rent and house bills, as we'll call them. Plus, after that, you're going to get into your acting expenses, as you'll see. But $1,000 a month for now is just for rent and what I call non-acting life expenses. That'll be all these other bills. So let's take a look at those. First, just a word on the rent here. This is an image that shows the one-bedroom rental cost in the different areas of town. Now, you can see if you go out here to like North Hollywood, or which is pretty far north, or you're willing to live over in Koreatown here or something like that, then you're looking at either $1,000 to $1,200 a month for a one bedroom. So if you're gonna live alone, then cool. Just know that you're looking at $1,000, $1,200 plus for a one bedroom, and that's if you lived in an area that is not the most ideal. The most ideal areas are probably going to be like here for a one bedroom for our audition purposes, and you see how much those are. But you can still find even in those areas some deals. Just depending on what you're comfortable living with. So I would say, at least $1,000 to $1,200 a month, at least, if you're going to live alone. And this is based on data from RadPad. You can visit radpad.com. They have interesting data on rental statistics that they update pretty regularly. So we're looking next at if you're going to split it, if you're not going to do the one bedroom, but rather you're going to split your rent. Well, you'll see that even if you split rent, that let's say you got a 3-bedroom that's $1,800, right? Then that's $600 a month before you get into your non-actor, bills, your just basic life expenses for the apartment, including electric, gas, cable, internet, parking. A lot of buildings you have to pay for the parking. Or even if you're parking on the street in front of the building, you're going to need a parking pass from the DMV. That's not a monthly cost, but it is something to consider. So $600 a month at the very least. And this is super conservative. I mean, $600 a month plus electric, gas, cable, internet. This is very realistic for what you can expect. And that comes out to, we're just using rough numbers, about $125 per month. So that's $725, right? So we'll break that down a little further here. $600 a month rent plus $125 in house bills equals $725 a month. Very conservative. It could easily be more than this, particularly if you have fewer roommates. Let's say you get a 2-bedroom instead of a 3-bedroom, or you're moving in with somebody who's got 2 bedrooms instead of 3 bedrooms. Or if you get a nicer place, then that's going to obviously cost more. So $600 plus $125 house bills equals $725 a month. We got to that. Plus, we haven't even talked about your cell phone. I don't know about you, my cell phone bill, basically it's $100 a month. Then you got hair, $50 to $100 a month. Yes, guys, you too. Now, that was another interesting revelation. Back in Tallahassee, premium haircut for a guy, $40. That's, like best stylist in town over there, $40-50 at the most. I mean, $40 at the most. Out here, it's $50 easy, even for guys. You're going to pay $50 for a good haircut, and if you're an actor, you don't want a bad haircut. So just budget $50. And girls, you obviously know your hair has a lot more going on with it, so the bill is typically twice as much. And if you add color and all that, then it gets even more than that. Then we've got the car payment. Now, a lot of you guys are going to have car payments that you have to pay plus your car insurance. I don't know about you, my car insurance is about $100 a month. Now, also be aware when you move to California, the car insurance is going to go up, most likely. So just be prepared for that. So you're going to have your car payment plus car insurance to consider. Then gym membership. You got to stay in shape. Most of you are going to want to have a gym membership, and if you do, then $40 a month or so for that. So next up is transportation. Let's back that up a little bit. I think we got ahead there by accident. So next up is transportation. You got parking tickets. Now don't kid yourself. You see that guy on the screen there looking at that crazy looking sign? Those are very typical looking parking signs that you see in LA. And it's like, what the heck? It literally took me about a year to get used to the whole parking situation. And because of that, because I'm not used to it from being where I'm from, if you're not used to like parking stuff like this, then you're going to end up getting some tickets. Don't kid yourself. It's just part of the learning curve out here. And they're $73 a piece right now. I've got one sitting on my desk right now, and I've been here, almost 6 years. So it's just easy to not notice something and make a mistake, and the next thing you know, it's $73. Parking meters. A lot of the places you're going to need to go to audition, or even for classes, or just getting around. Parking meters. So I think I probably spend about $20 a month, particularly because I'm out auditioning and so forth, and have to pay for that. Gas, $100 a month, easy. LA traffic, we all know about LA traffic. Even if you're not here yet, you've heard about it. You're going to sit around a bit, and that burns more gas, and so you got to consider that expense. Then also related to transportation, we've got tires, oil change, etc. Things you don't necessarily think about, but you need that oil change every 3 months, or your transportation will leave you, and your engine will blow up, and you'll be in a real situation. And we got to change the tires and take care of the car and so forth. Speaking of that car, we also got the DMV. Now, this is another real revelation coming out here. You're going to have to get new registration, a new tag for your car. Now, a lot of people will float as long as they can without doing it. I was one of them. But after a while, you're going to end up getting a ticket or something that's going to cause you to have to get that registration, which is going to require you to also then get a new driver's license, which is a pain in the butt as well, but another expense. So you got to get the registration and driver's license, and when you do that, it means you got to get a smog check on your vehicle. So smog check, you got to have that. Then the parking pass. Now, a lot of neighborhoods like the one I'm in, you have to pay semi-annually for a parking pass that allows you to park in your neighborhood without getting a ticket. So the neighborhood will have 2-hour parking. If you have the pass, you're good for as long as you want. But you have to have that parking pass for your neighborhood. So those are some additional transportation-related expenses that you need to keep in mind. And then we get to that we're at $1,000 a month before we even consider acting expenses. So your rent expenses plus the household expenses come out to at least $1,000 a month. I mean, even if you were doing that split 3 ways, $600 plus $125 per your other bills, you get to $725. Plus you pay for your cell phone, your gym, all your other expenses. You're easily at $1,000 a month. Before we get into acting expenses, which the core of which is your basic class. Acting class is going to cost about $275 a month. That's about the basic class cost out here. Now, sometimes you're going to be in more than one class, particularly when you're just starting out. For example, you may be in your basic scene study class, which we talk about in the course more. If you haven't already gotten into the course, I'll lay out for you exactly what kinds of classes you're going to need and the suggested order and so forth. So if you haven't gotten there in the course yet or haven't bought the course yet, then be sure to get it, and you can look forward to that. But just know that your basic scene study class, that's the class that teaches you the real fundamentals of acting. You're going to definitely need that. That's $275. Some folks are coming from different countries. I deal with people who are coming from Australia and the UK and all over, really. And some of those students end up needing voice and dialect classes. And so they're doing that at the same time they're doing their scene study class. So that's another $200 a month or so, depending on the class they're taking. Then a lot of folks also like to do improv and scene study at the same time, particularly when they're just coming out, because the improv helps to open them up and helps to get you feeling comfortable with yourself and having fun and playing and doing different scenarios and things like that. It's a good way to just get yourself started. So a lot of people will do improv and scene study at the same time. So just consider your basic acting expense. You're going to be paying $275 a month per class, and you may have more than one class. And then we get into the next major acting expense, which is headshots. Now, you can spend more than this, you can spend less than this, but about the average right now out here is about $500 to $600 for headshots. That gets you probably 4 or 5 looks, 4 or 5 different wardrobe looks, depending on the photographer that you're with. Hair and makeup is an additional expense with the vast majority of these headshot photographers. That's another $75 up to $75 often. After you get your headshots, you get them in digital format, and you make your final selections, probably 4 or 5 that you like the best. You're going to want those retouched so that they're color corrected and any little things removed that need to be removed, like some random thing that's on the screen or whatever. So retouches are a necessity. It's $30 to $50 per photo. So if you have 4 or 5 final selections for your photos from the photo shoot, well, you can do the math. Even at $30 per retouch, at 5 photos, it's an extra $150 you add to that headshot expense, plus printing costs. So you're going to want some headshots printed. At the very least, you'll want 50 of your favorite selection, at about $1 a photo, depending on where you print them. You can pay more, but about $1 a photo, we'll say that's about another $50 right there. So, you got to be prepared for your headshot expenses. The next up, we get into reel clips. Now, you don't have to do this in your first 6 months, and then I don't advise it in your first 6 months, but we're kind of looking at just the big picture of acting expenses that you need to consider. And some of you, if you've been doing this more than 6 months already, you've been acting more than 6 months already, like you're coming from New York or a different country, and you've already got a bit of acting experience, you're not really new to the acting game as a craft, then you may be going into the place where you need reel clips pretty quick. If you're fresh off the boat and you've never had an acting class before, then you're probably not going to need reel clips for at least 6 months. Reel clips you can get by doing work on student films, short films, webisodes, work that you book. But a lot of people out here these days pay a service to get something shot for them, so that they're guaranteed when the footage comes back that it's good, that it works for them, because you can end up waiting around to get your footage back from like a student film or a web series or short film, and wait a long time to get the footage back, and only to find out that it doesn't really do anything for you. So you don't necessarily need this in your first 6 months, but you're going to want to do it eventually, perhaps. And just know that it's about $500 to $1,500, depending on how many scenes you want to do. Let's say $500 for one scene to $1,500 for 3 scenes, something like that. You can find it cheaper, but I'd say that's good numbers to use, particularly if you consider additional costs related to those things. So maybe you'll not need this. Maybe you'll get what you need from like I said, these bookings from smaller stuff. But if you don't end up getting that, then it's an expense that a lot of us incur, including myself. So next up, we're going to look at workshops. Now, again, if you're fresh off the boat and you haven't had any acting experience or acting training, then you're not going to probably need this in the first 6 months. But pretty soon after that 6 month mark, you're going to start looking at them, because it's a good place to go to do the the agents as well as casting director workshops. So when you get past the 6 month mark and you got some experience under your belt and you got some shots that you like, that you feel reflect you, and you're confident in your skills from your training, then you're probably going to want to go to some casting director workshop places to read for agents, and that's a good place to go read for agents and managers. That's most likely going to be, as you see, as you get closer to the 1 year mark, between 6 months and 1 year. But you need to just consider that and budget accordingly, because you will probably need casting director workshops at some point in your first year, even if it's only to start targeting agents to read for there, which cost about $10 to $15 per agent to go read for it. The casting directors cost, $40 or $50 per casting director once you start getting into those. But that'll be later. You'll probably read for the agents earlier during your initial agent search. Next up is going to be mailer costs. Well, speaking of agent searches, one of the things you'll see in the Actor Basics course is we talk about how to get your first commercial agent. And you don't need to go to the casting director workshop places to read for them. You can, but you can also do mailers. That's still a big way that commercial agents find new talent, and another, as a result, big way you can get on their radar and get invited in to read for them. But to do that, you have to mail something to them. So it means you have to buy a mailing list, which costs, let's say, $25 for a list of agent managers, commercial agents, and possibly also managers. Then you're going to need to buy the envelopes. You're going to need to print the postcards or headshots. There's the printing cost related to that. And then you've got the postage cost of, probably $40 if you're doing 100 of these that you're sending out. So it's just another acting expense that you need to consider that people don't often consider as their mailer costs. By the way, you may have to do that more than one time before you get your first agent. Next up is the casting sites. Now, casting sites are an imperative. We have to be on them. You get yourself on them and get your profile set up before you ever have an agent. And this is how you submit yourself for acting jobs without an agent. It's using these casting sites. There's 3 main ones that people are using the most these days that you'll want to be on. By the way, this is also another console segment in the Actor Basics course where we go specifically deep dive into these casting sites, these first 2 in particular, where I show you exactly over my shoulder view of how I self-submit on these sites. But for now, we're just looking at the cost. So there's a subscription cost, there's a headshot upload cost, and then there's a cost to have your reel clips up there. That's a little different for each casting site, but they all have those basic costs. First one is LA Casting. Now, LA Casting is mostly for commercials. This is mostly where you will self-submit yourself for commercial work. The cost is $14.95 a month. That includes casting billboard, which is where you see all the current castings, all the current jobs, and it includes media hosting for your reel clips. So media hosting for your photos rather includes casting billboard and media hosting for your headshots and your reel clips. That's how LA Casting does it. $14.95 a month. You get both your hosting for your headshots and your reel clips. Reel clips, you're probably going to be your commercial work mostly that you would have up on this side, but that's the way that works. You pay $25 to upload the first photo though, so that $14.95 a month does not include unlimited photos. It includes your hosting cost, but it doesn't include your upload cost for getting the photos up there initially. You pay $25 for the first photo for that, and then $15 for any additional photo that you upload at the same time. Now, if you come back a day later or 2 days later and you want to upload some more photos, you're going to pay the full $25. Otherwise, it's $25 for the first photo, no free ones, and then $15 for every additional photo after that in the same session So just know that, LA Casting. Actors Access is the next main casting site that you're going to want to be on. It's mostly not commercials. Now, you will find some commercials on it, but it's mostly not. It's mostly films, non-union TV shows, uh, web series, webisodes, short films, student films, things like that. It's $68 per year for unlimited submissions. By the way, you'll see when you sign up there that there's a way that you can sign up where you don't pay the $68. Instead, you just pay $2 per submission. You're not interested in that. That $2 would add up so quickly you just won't believe. So you're only interested in the $68 per year for unlimited submissions, believe me. You do get 2 free photos uploaded for Actors Access, unlike LA Casting where you get none. It's also only $10 per photo to upload thereafter, and that's any time, whether you upload them the same day or 3 days later. Reel clips, however, cost you $22 a minute to upload. So over in LA Casting, it was $14.95 a month. That included as many reel clips as you want to put up there. But for Actors Access, they charge you for the per minute cost to upload your reel clips. So that's a pain, but it's a business expense that has to be paid. The next one that's become popular lately is Cast, CAZT.com. This is great for indie films, short films, web series, things like that, and mostly not commercials, just mostly these non-commercial type projects. And they're great for newer actors. This is the sort of stuff that we cut our teeth on to get our credits together, hone our craft, build some footage. So it's the type of stuff that we'd be interested in. The cost is either $15.99 a month, $44.97 per quarter, or $65.94 every 6 months. Obviously, you can see the 6-month deal is the best if you can afford to do that, but if you can't, then you can just do the $15.99 a month. You do get 10 plus photos uploaded. It may be more than that. I know you can do at least 10 because I have at least 10 up there now. And 10 plus reel clips. No additional cost for additional photos or reel clips, which is cool. Also, you get to see your audition tape. So as soon as you do the audition there, as soon as you walk out, the audition is available for you to view. You can also share that audition tape with your acting coach if you want to have them look over it and help make tweaks to your acting based on what they're seeing. So, or if just for your own knowledge, if you want to see how you looked and you make your own tweaks. But that's one cool feature that you get at Cast. They don't have that anywhere else right now. You also get free self-taping there, which can be huge. So, a lot of projects you can't get into Cast for. The casting won't see you for it, or it's just not going to work out with your schedule, but they say they're going to be willing to allow you to self-tape. Well, a lot of the places around town, there's a lot of most every place you have to pay to self-tape. $25, $50, somewhere in there. If you don't self-tape at home, if you're not able to do that, then you have to pay for a service to do it. This place, you can go and do it for free. They give you a camera, you go in, you do your thing. You can also just ask them for a reader, and oftentimes they've even got a reader available for you. Otherwise, you can bring your own reader if you want to make sure you've got one. But yeah, free self-taping is part of the service, so very cool. Highly recommend that. Next up is IMDB Pro. Now, again, first 6 months, probably not going to need it. If you're fresh off the boat, never had an acting class, don't have any credits, probably not going to need it. However, for those of you who are coming from other markets and other countries and you do have a resume and you do have experience, then you're going to want to have your IMDB Pro account set up, because IMDB Pro is basically your acting profile to the world. Whenever, major network casting folks or even minor casting folks, often these days when they're looking up an actor, this is where they're going. They're not going to your Actors Access account or your LA Casting account. They're going to IMDb and they're looking you up. So IMDb Pro, having a subscription, allows you to have more control over your resume, have pictures, which you need, have some real clips, So again, if you're fresh off the boat, you're probably not going to need that. But somewhere after the 6-month mark, getting closer to the year mark, you probably will need it. So that's why I include it here as an expense. It's $150 a year. Yeah, it's not cheap. So just for nothing but having a profile up there. But that's how important an IMDB profile is, and they know it, so they can charge that. If not, you can pay $19.99 a month. You know, obviously it's not as good a deal, but if you don't have the capital to do $150, then you can do $20 a month. I know you can upload at least 10 pictures and 10 reel clips, but maybe more than that, but you know, you do get a bunch of uploads, and there's no additional cost for that. Next up is survival gigs. Now, as I said, I think earlier, often it takes twice as long to get out here, and people are often surprised by that. And the reason it takes longer to get a survival gig is because when you think about it, all aspiring artists need one. And not just actors, but the writers, the musicians out here, graphic artists, illustrators. I mean, everybody needs a survival gig when they're trying to break into whatever industry they're trying to break into out here, which means obviously then there's a lot of competition for these survival gigs. So that means then naturally it can take longer to get one that works for you. You maybe don't find something earlier that wouldn't fully sustain you, you know, it just pays you some, but it can often take a while to find a survival gig that's really going to be enough to take care of you. So you got to consider that. B is related to survival gigs. It can take you a while to start making money, because even once you find that survival gig that you think will eventually sustain you, let's say like, you know, I found this table waiting job in Beverly Hills. Well, then I have to train for 3 weeks at the table waiting job when I first started there. So that means I'm not making tips for 3 weeks. Then once I do get off of training, the initial shifts that I get are crappy shifts. You know, they're not great shifts because you have to pay your dues because it's so competitive, because, you know, people literally support themselves start as artists on these jobs that they've been around a while, they've got seniority, and plus you've got your professional table waiters who aren't artists. They just literally like wait tables or bus tables for a living. They've been around a long time, so they've got the better shifts. So it can take a while to move into shifts wherever you're at that are better shifts that pay better and can sustain you. So also you got to consider for the prorated checks. Everybody always forgets about that. You know, your first check is never the full amount. It's like you come in the middle of some billing cycle or pay cycle, and so you get a partial check on your first check. And so those are all things to just consider as part of the reason why it can take you longer to get yourself up and running. And don't get it twisted. Survival gigs are key here. You got to spend the time to find one that's really going to work. Not only it pays you enough to survive, but it gives you the flexibility to go out and audition. So it's such a key component. You've got to take enough time to find the right one. You can't just take the first thing that comes along, because you need both the amount of money to sustain yourself and the flexibility to go out and service auditions. Otherwise, you wind up, as you'll see in some folks with this trap, where they get this retail job or something that's like closer to a 9 to 5, and yeah, they're making enough money, but now they're stuck because they can't go out on auditions. Well, what's the point of that? I mean, you know, that just doesn't make any sense. So consider that when you're getting your survival week. So conclusion: when you're just coming to LA, you're gonna need money. Okay, don't fool yourself. You need money, and you need enough to give yourself breathing room to get yourself up and running, and about 6 months worth of up and running money. If you've got people to live with, I think that's going to be at least $5,000 to float you while you find that survival gig, get set up on all the casting sites, find a class, get in a class, pay all the random deposits and stuff, get your DMV stuff done, you know. And if you're on your own, I think you're going to need at least $10,000, because you need all of that plus your first and last month's rent deposits, cost of furniture, cost of moving the furniture, deposits for utilities and cable and internet and all that stuff. So plus you don't have anyone to share the rent with. Even if you're, let's say, getting a 2-bedroom and you're eventually going to rent out the other room, well, it'll take you a little while to find a roommate, so you'll be floating the whole bill on your own for a bit. So for all those reasons, I think you need at least $10,000 if you're coming out here on your own and you don't have anyone to live with. So just, if you haven't already, go to actorbasics.com and check out the rest of the course on how to get started acting in LA. It'll, I promise you, save you a ton of time and money that I wasted and that you don't have to waste, and help you get a further game plan together for exactly how to get started. So I hope this video was helpful, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, take care.